unconscious mimicry or if she was intentionally doing her best to appear human. Tag smiled. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't a little worried. If I'd had to do this a year ago, I'd be terrified, but I have something now that I didn't back then.
A strike group?
That, but also you. Tag saw her eye screens blink, then catch his gaze. You and the rest of the crew. We've been through all three hells and back together.
While that may be true, our past success does not guarantee future performance, especially if we're going to free all the mechanics and humans that the collectors have enslaved.
Lucky sat between them, beginning to groom herself, totally uninterested now that they had stopped paying attention to her. Accurate assessment as usual, Tag said. But I believe we can handle whatever the bastards throw at us.
Do you have scientific evidence to support that notion?
Tag appreciated the question. As the former chief medical officer and resident scientist of the Argo, he often operated in worlds where decisions were made with piles of data. But his unexpected career as captain of the ship proved some things defied statistics and experimental results. The thing about belief is that it can't be quantified.
I see, Alpha said thoughtfully. I will have to assess such variables to better make my own predictions.
No need to develop an algorithm, Alpha. Tell me, do you think we can beat the collectors? For a moment, Alpha's silver face remained blank.
Upon further introspection, ignoring my own statistical models, I think you're right, she said at last. We will certainly find a way to unravel the collectors' control over the nanites enslaving the drone mechs.
I'm glad to hear you agree.
The alternative is that we all perish. I choose not to give that option any statistical significance despite how likely it seems.
I like your optimism.
That isn't optimism. It is the only other realistic outcome, yet I find myself unwilling to admit that we will all die.
I understand. I'd rather not admit that either. Together they watched the ballet of metallic monsters that was the strike group. When Tag had first joined the Solar Republic of Earth Navy, he had wanted to command a ship. He had been driven by a thirst for adventure, and if he was being truthful, a desire to prove to himself, his family, and, gods be damned, everyone he knew, that he was more than just the skinny kid from old Houston. It had seemed a lofty goal, but ultimately he had relegated himself to a fruitful career in science instead. That decision had still taken him to the far reaches of space on adventures he had only dreamed of. His scientific missions had also unwittingly sent him on a crash course into commanding a ship of his own. Tag had taken the new position with some trepidation, knowing he had much to learn about running a ship. But what he hadn't expected was the weight he now carried on his shoulders. The heavy sense of responsibility had nothing to do with maintaining fusion reactors, directing repair bots, or charting a trajectory through hyperspace. Lives depended on him. The lives of his team, all of which hung in the balance with every decision he made. Every time they donned their EVA suits and weapons, every time they engaged an enemy spacecraft, he worried that they would lose someone. Every member of his crew played a role in getting them across the galaxy and back, time after time. So far, those that had joined him on the Argo had made it through each mission, all except for one young Marine nicknamed G. His sudden death still haunted Tag on those nights when the ship was quiet and he was alone in his berth. Those memories also drove him forward. He knew he was leading his people into dangerous territory. Hells, he was leading this whole strike group into what was likely collector-controlled space. Silently, he vowed he would do everything in his power to preserve their lives while they pursued this nebulous mission. They would win. They would survive. They had no choice if they wanted to free those who had already been enslaved by the collectors and prevent the human race from suffering the same fate. He glanced to his left, studying Alpha, one of his earliest allies, born from his research but grown into something much more. The path to victory wasn't going to be paved solely by his leadership.